There is a moment in life when pain stops screaming and starts whispering. That's the moment you should be afraid. Because screaming pain wants to be noticed. Whispering pain is patient. It watches. It remembers. Olivia Munro didn't know she had entered that moment the night her mother died. She thought grief would be loud, uncontrollable sobs, collapsed knees, public breakdowns. But grief didn't come like that. It came quietly. It sat beside her. It watched her husband drift away. It watched her best friend step closer. And it waited. Because what Olivia didn't know was that grief wasn't here to destroy her. It was here to strip her life down to truth. And once the truth was exposed, nothing and no one would survive unchanged. Gracewell Medical Center felt frozen in time. The air smelled of antiseptic and despair, the kind that sinks into your skin and refuses to leave. Rain slammed violently against the tall glass windows, each drop echoing like a countdown. Olivia sat in the waiting room with her back straight and her hands folded so tightly together that her fingers had gone numb. Doctors passed her without eye contact. Nurses spoke in hushed tones. Somewhere down the hall, machines beeped, not urgently, not softly, just constantly. Her mother, Lorraine Monroe, lay 2 rooms away, breathing through machines that could no longer heal her. 3 months. That's all cancer had needed. 3 months to erase a woman who had worked 2 jobs, raised a child alone for years, and never once complained about the life she carried on her shoulders. Olivia's phone vibrated gently in her lap. Ryan, her husband, the man who had sworn to love her in sickness and health. The message was short, casual, cruel in its simplicity. Still at the hospital, heading out with friends. Don't wait up. Olivia stared at the screen, reading it again and again, waiting for concern to magically appear between the words. It never did. In that moment, something important broke. Not her heart, but her illusion. She turned the phone face down like a weapon she refused to pick up. For the first time in her life, Olivia understood what true loneliness felt like. Being surrounded by people and realizing none of them were really there. When the nurse finally approached, her face already carried the answer Olivia wasn't ready to hear. Inside the room, the sound of machines grew louder, harsher, almost aggressive. Lorraine lay beneath white sheets, her chest rising mechanically, her skin pale and unfamiliar. Olivia took her hand. It was cold. Lorraine's eyes fluttered open, just barely. With enormous effort, she whispered words that didn't belong in that moment. Words that felt misplaced, urgent, terrifying. Safety deposit box. First National. Box 611. The key is hidden. Tell no one. Not your husband. Not your friends. Promise me. The urgency in her voice sent a chill through Olivia's spine. She promised, tears falling freely now. Lorraine smiled faintly. When the storm comes, she whispered, you stand. Minutes later, the machine screamed. At 11:47 p.m., Lorraine Monroe was pronounced dead. The words didn't register. Olivia stood frozen against the wall as doctors moved around her like shadows. She already knew. You always know before they tell you. Outside, rain soaked through her clothes as she stood staring at nothing. When she returned home hours later, hollow and shaking, Ryan barely glanced away from the television. That's rough, he said, beer in hand. No hug. No arms around her shaking body. Her best friend Claire arrived later, crying loudly, holding Olivia tightly, promising she'd never leave her side. Olivia believed her. That belief would cost her everything. The funeral was grey and heavy. Ryan checked his phone through the pastor's words. Claire cried the loudest, clinging to Olivia's arm like a performance meant for an audience. 2 weeks later, Ryan asked for a divorce. He said he wasn't happy anymore. He said Olivia had changed. He didn't say Claire's name. He didn't need to. The truth revealed itself days later in a cafe window reflection. Ryan's hand covering Claire's. Their laughter intimate, familiar, practiced. 10 years of friendship. 5 years of marriage. Destroyed without hesitation. That night, Olivia returned to her childhood home alone. The silence was heavy with memory. The furniture smelled like her mother. She opened the jewelry box, cheap necklaces, worn bracelets, and felt along the bottom until the hidden compartment gave way. Inside lay a small brass key. The next morning, she stood inside First National Bank, heart pounding. An unlocked safety deposit box, 611. She found inside didn't feel real. It felt dangerous. Documents spilled out. Trusts, deeds, accounts, corporate filings. And then the letter. Lorraine confessed everything. She had been born into generational wealth, disowned for refusing an arranged marriage, and rebuilt her empire in silence. Not millions, billions, real estate, corporations, global investments. She had lived small to raise a daughter with character, not entitlement. Money doesn't change people, the letter warned. It reveals them. Olivia didn't cry when she finished reading the letter. That scared her more than tears ever could. She sat there in the private room of the bank, documents spread across the table, numbers staring back at her like a foreign language. Millions, not potential, not projections. Existing wealth, existing power. For years, she had watched her mother come home exhausted, hands cracked from work, back bent not by weakness but by responsibility. And now the truth rewrote every memory she had ever owned. Lorraine Monroe hadn't been surviving. She had been observing, testing the world, testing people, testing her own daughter. In that moment, Olivia realized something terrifying and empowering at the same time. Her old life was dead. The woman who needed approval, who begged for loyalty, who feared abandonment. That woman didn't survive the bank vault. She stood up slowly, feeling like she was stepping into someone else's skin, someone stronger, quieter, far more dangerous. Most people think power announces itself. It doesn't. Power waits. Olivia didn't rush to change anything. She didn't buy luxury cars or quit her job. She didn't confront Ryan or expose Claire. She understood something most people never learn. Silence creates illusion, and illusion creates advantage. She flew to New York quietly, sat in boardrooms where her name carried weight she wasn't ready to reveal, and listened more than she spoke. Lawyers explained structures. Accountants explained systems. She learned how money moves without noise, how decisions made in quiet rooms destroy lives without fingerprints. When she returned home, she put on the same clothes, drove the same car, and played the role everyone expected. The grieving, discarded woman. And while they pitied her, she prepared. What Ryan never knew, what Claire never imagined, was that ownership doesn't always have a face. Through trusts and holding companies, Olivia quietly acquired controlling interest in the consulting firm Ryan worked for. She sat through meetings where his name appeared on performance reports, listening as executives debated whether he was still worth the investment. Claire's hotel chain came next. Audits were scheduled. Standards tightened. Budgets froze. None of it illegal. None of it emotional. Just business. Olivia didn't feel pleasure yet. What she felt was certainty. The certainty that betrayal doesn't need revenge. It needs consequences. Ryan started coming home angry, confused, defensive. Targets he once missed were suddenly unforgivable. His confidence cracked under pressure he didn't understand. Claire, once so polished and admired, found herself questioned in meetings, her decisions dissected, her authority quietly eroded. Stress crept into their relationship like poison. Money arguments replaced romance. Blame replaced passion. They turned on each other the same way they had once turned on Olivia. Easily, selfishly, without loyalty. Olivia watched from a distance, not smiling, not celebrating. This wasn't revenge. This was inevitability. The announcement shook the city. A $50 million scholarship fund in Lorraine Monroe's name. Interviews followed. Photos surfaced. Olivia's calm, composed presence contrasted sharply with the rumors. People had whispered about her for months. Suddenly, the poor abandoned woman had a story the world wanted to hear. Media outlets called her private, strategic, mysterious. Ryan saw her face on screens at the gym. Claire saw her name in business magazines. Panic set in, because power finally had a face, and it was the one they thought they had erased. The charity gala was intentional. Olivia chose it carefully. When Ryan and Claire saw her across the room, reality hit them like a physical blow. This wasn't the woman they left behind. This was someone untouchable. Ryan tried to speak, apologize, explain, rewrite history. Claire cried, her voice shaking with regret that came too late. Olivia listened politely. She didn't interrupt. She didn't accuse. When they finished, she smiled softly and said, "I hope you both find the peace you were searching for." Then, she walked away, leaving them, standing in silence, exposed and powerless. Months later, standing alone in her penthouse, Olivia looked out over a city that once felt too big for her. Framed on the wall were her mother's final words, "When the storm comes, stand." Lorraine hadn't given her money. She had given her vision. Olivia finally understood the lesson. People don't betray you because you're weak. They betray you because they think you'll stay small. She didn't. And the most dangerous woman in the world isn't the one who screams when she's broken. It's the one who rebuilds in silence and never asks for permission again.